Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 21st of May, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index, moving higher still. We're seeing here just pushing higher overnight. We're up about 0.4% this morning. That's activated a new upside target to 96.25. That's another 2.4% higher. We've got one at 97.12. That's 3.3% higher. So a good few percent upside potential still for the dollar on the short-term chart. And so interestingly, we're just seeing this really pushing forward. And if you saw my big report on the 10 things in the market, the long-term euro-dollar chart really showed up how the euro is reversing on a very big trend at this point. So interestingly, euro is sinking lower. Short-term downside target now of 114 activated. That's 3% lower. So that's consistent with the dollar strength. And looking at the yen against the dollar, we're seeing the dollar really has made that very strong transition through the cloud as well. It was later than on other currencies and on the index, but now looking strong as well. So we've got good upside potential there. Not as clear on the short-term targets, but really finding support also on the point and figure chart. So this dollar strength is really carrying through. Sterling weaker against the dollar. We've got downside targets at now to 132. So we're seeing that sterling weakness there, dollar strength, and against the euro, we're seeing sterling also just flattening and weakening, and against the Swiss franc really sinking lower there as well. So sterling going lower. And against the Aussie dollar, sterling now sitting quite clearly at this 179, 178 level. So we're really pushing lower here, looking like we're starting to make a transition through the cloud, probably hitting some long-term resistance on the Aussie dollar there. And if looking at Bitcoin, little change this morning, but has actually made a short-term transition. This is the point. Can Bitcoin get back through this cloud? And really, this $10,000 level is pretty significant. We've got quite big downside targets now for Bitcoin. We do have an upside target short-term of 8,750. So seeing Bitcoin getting back above that level would be quite key. Just depends how long, how far this trend can go. So if we look at U.S. stock markets, last week we had a, a strong end to the week. If we look at the S&P 500 index, we didn't actually rise very much on the week. It was just a slightly negative week, and we can see here we had quite a good start, and then we just flat through the rest of the week, and that's showing up in the short-term chart. We were just flat. Markets really sort of waiting to see what happens, and of course this trade tensions in China should give us a bit of a kick in the coming week. Nasdaq still just struggling. Dow Jones also just struggling. These markets not managing to make new highs. The broader base Russell actually looking stronger. The interesting thing will be to see where we open today at the start of a new week for the US market. If we look at the S&P future, it's up 0.5%, and the Nasdaq E-mini also is up around 0.5%. So it does suggest that the US market will open higher today. UK market made new highs last week, and we're seeing that strength continuing this morning, up 0.5%, and the mid caps also higher, so that's looking strong as well. The German DAX also looking strong, seeing the recovery coming through there, and the CAC 40 we're also seeing that looking very strong. So looking at Asian markets, Tokyo was little change, down very, very slightly, but does look like this recovery through the medium-term chart on the cloud is looking likely, and also the Hang Seng just pushing back up through the cloud as well, only just though. And the Chinese market still the main concern in Asia. Shanghai just still bearish below the cloud on the medium-term chart, but we have had a little bit of a spurt on the short-term chart. We're up to 2/3% overnight. The Indian market actually sinking lower. Oil price probably not helping the Indian economy, and that's filtering through here. So we're seeing weakness creeping in there, and the Australian market also just drifting a little bit lower. It was very slightly down. Brent crude is holding on to its gains mostly, sitting at 78 $79 this morning. So we're holding the strength, and we're still bullish on all three time frames. And WTI, much the same picture. Taking a look at US nat gas, we're sitting at 2.8%, $2.84, 82 at the moment. So just struggling at these levels and have been really flat for months now. Just a weak recovery, but on the whole, we're very flat. Taking a look at gold, gold is actually sinking lower again. That strong dollar not helping. We're waiting really for the summer rally, which tends to start around June time. So it'll be interesting to see whether that materializes. The medium and long-term target's still pretty bullish. And silver also sinking lower, but really no clear downside targets there to note. US Treasury yields really holding that 3% level now. We were 3.13 at one point last week. We've come back a little bit now, but US 10-year yields still looking very strong at 3.07%. And if we look at German bonds, we're seeing here the short-term recovery here this morning. So we are just seeing that German bonds. This is the price, the Bund, short-term recovery, but medium and long-term still looking pretty bearish. Bond markets really ending a pretty strong run, and that again was covered in my the 10 big things report. Apple looking strong still, holding its highs. Amazon also just looking a little bit stronger here, just tailing off there. Alphabet, which of course is Google, has been the laggard of late. On Friday, Google was down over 1% more than the market, of course, so we've still seen that relative weakness creeping in, and that really is a factor for the market as a whole. Google still looks pretty weak. And Facebook also just struggling. These tech stocks just not managing to make new highs, and they've had long enough now really to do it. So this is still a bit of a concern for the US market. And last of all, Microsoft still looking pretty good on the medium and long term charts, but just struggling short term. It was down very slightly on Friday. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.